Hi there, I'm Molly,
And I'm Jamie. We're the owners of Hired Hand Software.
and this is season 6 of our From the Pasture podcast. For more than 15 years, we've been helping breeders promote their pedigree livestock with our easy to use, animal management driven website software.
Each week, we bring you stories from the pasture, breeding philosophies, ranch traditions, cattle knowledge, and conversation with folks using Hired Hand to power their livestock marketing.
So settle in for today's episode of From the Pasture with Hired Hand. Today's episode is all about intention, a word that may not get used nearly enough in agriculture today. Arete. It's a Greek word that roughly translates to excellence, virtue, and becoming the very best version of something. And for today's guests, it's not just a word, it's their breeding philosophy. We're joined by brothers Luke and Dave Pine of Pine Brothers Longhorns. What started in 2013 with empty barns, open pastures, and a few curious kids has grown into a thoughtfully built Texas Longhorn program focused on elite cattle, strong partnerships, and long-term vision. Luke and Dave, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having us.
For listeners meeting you for the first time, take us back to the very beginning. So in 2013, as I understand it, you had empty barns, you had underutilized pasture, a lot of young cowboys and cowgirls running around. What made you decide, yeah, we probably need some four-legged critters out here?
Well, I didn't necessarily decide that we needed anything running around out there. My wife and me and my two kids had just purchased our property. I'm going to say 6-7 months prior to that. So first time since married, we lived in the country and had any property, and it just happened to have pastures and waters and other things because it was set up for thoroughbred raising in the past. So I had no intention of having any four-legged critters. Luke is the one that decided I should probably have some four-legged critters running around.
And our cousin from Ohio, he was interested in Longhorns, and he was coming over our way to look at some. They weren't necessarily for the registered, but just more just to have out for ornaments, pasture ornaments. And so I went along with him on the ride and checking them out, and I thought, man, these are pretty kind of neat. And then it just happened to be Dave's wife Kristen's birthday that day. I thought, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we picked up a couple and dropped off in his pasture as like a birthday prank gift, or just for fun. And he thought that was a great idea. So since Dave wasn't there to vote the opposite direction, we proceeded with getting a heifer and a steer just for yard ornaments, basically. And then you came home to that, and
Mm-hmm.
and we had small children, so that was kind of fun. We both grew up doing 4-H and had animals around, had a horse and ponies and Holsteins and stuff like that, but never to the breeding extent. It was just more for enjoyment of outdoors. So it kind of went hand in hand in with what we were accustomed to growing up. So it was ideally just for kids to maybe experience something similar that we did.
So as I understand it, when I was kind of doing my research before I interviewed you all, your cousin that found the Longhorn, he kind of was considering it more of an exotic than anything else. Is that right?
Yeah, well, if you go back another 15 or 20 years, we had some family down in Texas in the Canyon Amarillo area. And so our uncle, he had a ranch down there, and he always wanted some Longhorns, so he got a couple. Well, our cousin Nick went down and worked for him out of high school for a year or two. And then once he moved back to Ohio and got married and had kids, he had a couple of Longhorns. He's had about everything from buffalo and pot-bellied pigs out there and tumbling pigeons and, gosh, I don't know what, llamas, deer, fallow deer, everything. So not a lot of them, but he always liked to have them. So it's kind of went back to our uncle. I think you even had a couple of steers at one point in the past. But he had a cow, and he was bringing it over to a place not too far away to get bred. And so Luke rode along with him that day. So that was kind of the connection to the Longhorns was, yeah, he likes to have kind of the old McDonald farm is what I always explain it as. Kids and family and people driving the road like to stop and look at, figure out what he's bought next.
Luke, as I understand it, you had just taken over your parents' old place, and so you kind of had the opposite. You might not have had like the waters and the fencing and the barns, but you definitely had the space for the animals, right?
Correct. Yep. So that went hand in hand. And then shortly after, you had it with the kids, and it's like, oh, well, wouldn't it be cool to have a baby? So then we started looking, hey, if we're going to get a bull, and one thing led to another. And um, somehow we ended up hooking up with Dick Lowe. We ended up getting a bull from, oh, yeah, you want to rent a bull? And, oh, yeah, we'll rent it. And then the lease turns into, oh, we're going to buy one. And then, but yeah, either way, just having the babies and was kind of the next step just for the kids, I guess.
So do you feel like at the beginning, maybe the Longhorns found you versus you found the Longhorns?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was, yeah, if I was going to have something in the pasture, it might as well be something kind of cool instead of, black cattle. People don't like it when I say it, but they're boring. To me, to the uneducated, they all look the same. And so that didn't interest me. If he dropped off some black cattle or some Holsteins, I'd probably maybe raised them, butchered them, and we'd have been done.
So you mentioned, leasing a bull from Dick Lowe, but then I believe you also decided to go to the Hudson Valentine sale in Bowling Green shortly after that. Tell me about that, and if maybe that sale kind of flipped your switch from this is fun to this might be serious.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's what it was. We got it was probably a year down the road. I'm guessing. So maybe 2013, 2012 or 13 is when we got the heifer and the steer. And then, after having them a while, we thought these might be cool. So we just started Googling and researching them and looking for, we had no idea that there was different kind of segments of the breed, whether it was breeding for beef or breeding for, shows or futurities or sales or just to have art in the pasture or what it was. So the closest thing we could find was in Bowling Green, which is about 5 or 6 hours from us. But to our knowledge, in anything we could Google or find, that was the closest event to us. So, that's when we decided, well, you know what, let's make a road trip this weekend and we'll go, see what we see. And, so we didn't know anybody. We may have met Gail Beach, before that, because she doesn't live too far away from us. So we may have met her, but, yeah, going down to that sale and bought our first animal, ended up being from Bill and Suzanne Torkelson, was a heifer that they sold in that sale. And, but, they were very gracious and nice and friendly, and afterwards kept in communication with us and knew that we didn't have a clue about anything.
And we seen Amaro to Ching sell at that sale for like $60-some thousand. And when we seen that happen, we were like looking at each other like, whoa, what's going on here? This is cool. Yeah, we're going to be part of this, right?
Yeah, that was probably the kicker was, she sold for $66,000 or $67,000. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
So when you went to the sale, did you take a trailer? Like, were you anticipating to buy, or was it just something?
I think we did. I think we did take a trailer. I don't know that it was our own trailer. We probably had to borrow a trailer. And, going down there thinking, okay, well, yeah, we'll find something that's registered. And we weren't interested in spending very much money. We had, somewhat small budgets and just thought, hey, we're just going to kind of dip our toe in the water. And, so that's what we did.
Yeah, I don't think we knew that there was a possibility of a animal bringing over $50,000. That just wasn't never registered. We didn't realize it existed. We were just thinking a couple $1,000 animal. Hey, get something a little nicer, and And then when we seen the, hey, man, there's some cash cow action going on, it was like, hey, this is fun. This is let's try for something like this.
Did you make some good personal connections at the sale? Did you do some networking and meet any other breeders besides the Torkeltsons?
I'm sure that we did.
I'm sure it's possibly how we met Dick Lowe too, because I think I jumped ahead. We ended up after that going to Dick Lowe's and getting a bull off of him. So I'm sure we networked with him. Obviously the Hudsons, just since they were putting it on. So that was, and then we ended up going back several years in a row to the Bowling Green sale at that time. So that was, we really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think our second one was at the Valentine Dispersal, would have been maybe that fall down there, also in Bowling Green, different location, but in Bowling Green where we bought one of his animals. So that was just kind of year after year, but that was I can't recall any other sales anywhere. The next closest one that I'm aware of would be the Cherry Blossom at that point in time. But there was a futurity and things closer, and of course the Great Lakes Texas Longhorn Association. That's probably part of how we got to know Dick and some of the Michigan folks and those folks better, taking our first couple of calves, the next year up there to Brand and
Tom Smith, Mark Hubble,
Johnny, and a whole bunch of great folks up there.
The Valentine Dispersal, I feel like around the time frame that we're talking about, that one sticks out to me more, maybe even than like seeing Emero Chiching and some of those cows sell at other sales, because that was the very first sale we ever did internet bidding at for Hired Hand Live. So I remember we felt like Mr. Valentine, Lorinda, Bill, they all took a pretty big risk on on having it, and now it seems like everybody's using it. So it feels like a long time ago too.
Yeah.
Now it's the opposite. If you don't have Hired Hand, you're like, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah. I remember though, we had a few hiccups that sale. We had a few learning moments. So had to work a few kinks out. So, but let's fast forward a little bit to today. So your tagline is Arete. Am I saying that right? Arete?
Your guess is as good as ours.
I call it a rat.
Luke's a thesaurus guy.
Right. Well, as I understand it, it's your tagline on your website is Arete. It's what we breed for. So what does it mean to you in the context of your cattle breeding? Is it horn length, color, the whole animal? Tell me a little bit about that philosophy.
Yeah, it's I think to me is it is the entire animal, and not just one trait or another, but to me, what we're trying to breed at the end, and it took us a little while to get here, and we certainly make mistakes and get excited at a sale or somewhere once in a while where we buy something that may not be perfect to what we're doing, but it's really we want to be able to market our animals, period. I mean, we want to enjoy what we're looking at out in the pasture, but we want something that everybody's going to come and look at and enjoy while being functional and all the other things that need to happen. It's happened where, you miss a calf one year or every other year. And of course that's not part of it. So, a good calf being raised every year that somebody is going to want to buy it. They're not going to be all $10,000 calves that you're selling, or 100,000 or 2,000, but at least something that's decent. That whether it's the guy down the road that just wants to raise one to feed his family or for his kids to look at, or to bring to an elite sale that somebody really wants to bring to add to their herd. That's really, really cool when some of these breeders want something that you produced, right? That to me is kind of Arete. If Bill Hudson and Mike Villner and Elizabeth, if they buy something from us, to me, that animal is probably meets that criteria. Not just them, but they've just been so great to us over the years, and we love going down there. We make a point once or twice a year to go visit. But um, when your animals go to those type of folks, that is arete to me.
In just a few years from that first purchase, your herd grew to around 15 breeding age females plus calves and bulls. How did you balance that growth with staying true to that arete mindset?
At the end of the day, you gotta call hard. In our opinion, we try to be nip it in the butt sooner than later. If one of the animals isn't meeting our criteria, we'll, and especially with the beef market as good as it's been, it makes it a lot easier to do that. But at the end of the day, you're still feeding animals, so we try to get the highest quality. So if we feel one of the animals isn't adding up to the arete, we'll move them sooner than later, and then that helps our quality in the long run. And then kind of to bounce off what Dave was saying about having an animal that everybody else wants. So just keeping it trim has been the way we can roll, it seems like.
Sometimes it's a challenge. He's ready to get the hammer out real early sometimes, like within months old, and other times he wants to hang on to them longer. So that it's not always easy decisions to be made on what stays, what goes, and how it goes. Right, being mindful of not taking something that is not going to add value to somebody to a sale, and making sure we, if we're going to sell those to others, that we sell them, hey, that this is for beef. It's not it may not be an animal that you'd want to build a herd around, but you can look at it. It's going to be pretty out there. Maybe you'll get a calf, but don't expect miracles or anything like that. So all different avenues to get rid of those animals that aren't doing you any good, because it's a struggle every year, every month, and every year. All these animals are getting better and better. And what was great 10 years ago is probably still pretty good, but what was okay then is not good at all now.
Are
I
there
mean,
any that you maybe, I don't want to use the word cull, but are there any that you strategically decided to sell and get rid of a little young, and then down the road you saw that animal grown on someone else's ranch and thought, man, we should have kept that one, or wish we wouldn't have parted with that one as fast?
Well, I think he's alluded to, I tried to do that with one of our heifers. It's just a slow starter. And it's like, hey, man, she's got to go. He's like, just hold on a little bit, hold on a little bit. And then, then a year later, like, holy smokes, she's pretty nice.
I mean, you got to remember there are circumstances that even an animal that produces very well and creates good calves and raises them, there can be circumstances outside of their control that may cause a calf to get slow. Maybe it was born in a rainstorm or in a snowstorm, or we didn't have her up at the barn in the dry bedding, or there were stresses because we bought her late in the third trimester. There's all kinds of things that we are not. We try to be, and we try to temper each other with making sure we're making thoughtful decisions and not just off the cuff doing it. Because as we all know, you can have the same mating over and over and over again, and you may only get one great one out of that. And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the one that you can mate them 3 or 4, 5, 6 different ways, and you still have maybe no superstars, but all really solid calves.
Well, in the genetics, to really study the genetics and watching what they've done is helpful. It's early, or it's easy to get excited about the early horn growth. And I would say that's probably one of our early on mistakes that we've learned from is, sometimes you're, oh my gosh, it's got to have a lot of horn right now. And that one heifer we just talked about was a good example where her genetic situation just had her slower growth, and she actually in the end maybe surpassed some of them earlier horn growth animals. So that was kind of a moment where hey, uh, try not to react too fast and to know the genetics. And sometimes you got to wait on certain things, which is not always easy.
But to directly answer your question, there's one in particular that, especially I think by the price that we sold her and how well she turned out. But as far as, regretting selling them, wishing we still had them. But you got to sell good ones. You got to let other people have them, and we got to pay for it somehow. So there's certainly times where, no, don't want to sell that one, or that one, but we still got to buy hay. We still got to pay to get to the sales, pay consignment fees, pay to go visit folks and all those things. So you're going to have to sell some of your best sometimes. And those do hurt. Sometimes not as bad at first until later, as you alluded to, but certainly.
But it also makes you proud to have one of your own brandings out there that turned out good, I'd rather that happen than the opposite happen, where they
look great when they turn out as duds.
Do you have any rules between each other where you don't say "I told you so" when one's wrong and one's right, or how's that go?
No? love to be right.
Well, who's one of the ones that has made you proudest, whether she sold well through a sale ring or, just became a staple in someone else's program? Why don't you each pick one to talk about if you don't have the same favorite?
Yeah, we could do that. I don't. We're
Say
probably
that one more time.
Like, who would be an animal you're most proud to have bred that is in another herd today that you've sold either through the sale ring or private treaty?
I would say there's one in particular, and we sold her up at Dan Salem, Wisconsin, and she was a solid red heifer, and her mom was solid red. That we had bought the let's see, what was it? It might have been the Fall Classic or the G&G Fall, one of the two G&G sales from Jay Walker. A really, really nice cow, all the way around. She was red, and so we bred her, and we got a red heifer. And so we took her up there. I think as a red heifer, she got maybe second in the futurity, and then we sold her, and
she was bred to Django.
She was bred to Django. One of the very first heifers that we had bred to Django, and a gentleman named Kevin Kloot ended up buying her. And like I said, we were a little disappointed by the price that she sold at, but to hear later on, and he's kept us updated on how well she's done. She's probably has more horn than any heifer we've ever raised, and of course she laid down and had a beautiful solid black Django heifer the next spring. And but we've been on the positive side of those things also, where we snuck one past the goalposts by chance. People weren't paying attention. At a set, her mom is a great example of it. We bought her mom for less than we sold her at, and she was great. But that's one, and it was pretty cool because it was somebody that saw her, took a chance, and Dave Hovingen had brought him and knew Kevin, and anyway, I've told him probably every year. I send him a text and ask him if he ever wants to sell that pair. Of course, the baby's probably 2 or 3 years old now, but I'd buy both of them back.
Well, another one is Special K. We had bought the cow off of an online sale, right, from Loomis, Kohola. And we bred her to Django and got a nice heifer out of her. And she was a slower starting heifer too, but she had really great horn direction and genetics. And man, by the time she was coming on too, we were like, man, this heifer is really nice. And took her down there to the Fort Worth sale. And feel like we got pretty good money out of her. I think 1886, I think, bar
That's right.
company, and now
It was
she's
his first sale also was that weekend, and I think he bought both of our heifers uh, that night. I think the one of them that might have been the one was the first heifer he ever bought.
and she's. I mean, it's been a year or two, but from what I can tell, she's turned out really nice. So that's a nice heifer to say you bred and sell at a sale like that for good money. So
And what was her name?
Special K, PB Special K.
So some of your cattle are owned in partnership, and you have a family friend that I understand his nickname is Alan Jackson that you own a few with. What do you feel like makes a good partnership in the Longhorn world, and why do those relationships matter?
Well, that one is a little bit funny, um, because we kind of used each other early on because we didn't want to invest much money. So it was really from out of a financial drive to do it, where he'd own a little bit of them, and he could. He doesn't travel near as much or get near as much involved, but he felt like he was kind of living vicariously through us in the Longhorn world, and would feel pretty good. I mean, some of those animals he had owned their mothers or them in partnership with us. Um, and I don't think we own anything with them anymore. We're still great friends. We visit, and I think we have a group text between the three of us. That's if I'm in a meeting, I come out, I have about 10 of them in there at any time during the week. But he doesn't like to sell anything ever. So that was kind of, as a matter of fact, one animal we had sold at a sale that we owned together, and we said, well, so we always said we're going to do it, but we're going to make the decision on when to sell, how to breed. You can have input, but we're going to make the final decision. So one of them we owned in partnership. We took to a sale. He bought it at the sale. So he bought his own heifer at the sale, but that's kind of where I think he decided, hey, I don't want to be pushed into doing what I want. So all that leading into, that's very important to understand the expectations and the goals of everybody involved in the partnership. It'd be challenging for me to get into one without really knowing and understanding the other breeder and what they wanted to do. Probably our first couple were, again, we'll go back to the Hudsons and Mike Willinger, and I couldn't think of a better partner to have. And when we got into Django, Mike called and said, hey, but there's a guy, and Wayne was pretty new. We had no idea who Wayne was. Said, well, Wayne Manning would like to get in. And in that case was, hey, if Mike says it's okay, it's okay. We'd trust him with any of those decisions. But we've built a great relationship with him over the years. So I think it really comes down to, if we're going to partner, we better understand dates, everything very clear, so that there's not any hurt feelings down the road.
But it creates opportunity and networking. Now we met some new people and different genetics and stuff. So partnership and just the camaraderie of it, and just being talking to different game plans and strategies and all that stuff is part of what makes it fun.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you all have bought and sold cattle from Virginia to California, Michigan to Texas, so just, all over. How has that exposure to different regions and programs not only helped you grow, but also shaped your eye for cattle that you add to your herd?
I don't know that it's the geographic region as much as it is the people that you're meeting in their ranches and how they manage their ranches. And of course, there's different management techniques based on region. But as far as the actual animal, I don't know that it's, maybe you have a different opinion, but the animal itself in the region, I don't know that it's shaped it. It's just being able to go visit folks in different areas and different regions, and certainly learning techniques and other things that can help along the way, whether it's certain minerals or certain tools or certain tricks on how to do things.
You have to share some of that info. What are some of those tips and tricks that you've learned and picked up that you can recommend to others?
Uh,
Well, some of it's by chance. Sometimes you get, say, spend more money on a cow and maybe things don't turn out. And sometimes we've spent less money on a cow and it's produced. So not, and I think that's part of the fun. Part of what keeps you guessing, keeps you interested is nothing's guaranteed, but you try to do your research and do your diligence and after time and weeding some of the things out, we've got a couple of genetic lines that we've really kind of took and fawn to. We've seen some consistencies and stuff like that. So now that we've got a couple heifers out of them, we're able to say, okay, this is what we like. And now we're focusing on building around these couple um, pedigrees or couple genetic packages that we've found effective.
For folks who maybe haven't visited your website, can you tell me who those genetic lines are and how you're crossing them and maybe some of the young ones that you're excited about through them?
yeah. One is from Dun Bravo Celebrity. Is the name of the cow, and she's getting older now, 14, 15, 16 years old. And um, we bought her at the Legends sale, knowing her consistency in the calves and the daughters and sons that she had raised, both. Um, she had been flushed, but with a lot of different bulls, she made really good counts, and she had a she had a Vindicator daughter at her side, and we loved that heifer, so we bred her to higher ground. Just to bring more of to stay with that sire side and bring more of the maternal. And then, gosh, she hit it out of the park with Django. But that's a big one, and we have a young bull calf at home by Line Drive that a bull that we had that looks fantastic. So it was a cow that hit all the time, and their offspring were hitting. So that's one main line. That's probably our biggest.
And to make note, if the female clicks with something, sometimes you can just go back to it and try to repeat it, especially if you're trying to flush or do some IVF work.
So do you have your future matings planned, 2, 3, 4 years down the road already?
Luke tries to get me at least a year and a half ahead, and I struggle with it. We have an idea of what they are. They change a lot of times, but um, we've our last few bulls, we've really finally got to the point after we got really fortunate with Django when we got him. He was unproven, hadn't done anything. Same even before that with Hubble's Butch Cassidy. But then after that, we bought Brazos Tough Cowboy. So he's a little bit older, but he hits with a lot of different cows, and he brings in some of those Alfie genetics that seem to do so well, but across the board. So that's where we brought him in. So we're pretty well dead set on most of our matings right off the bat. Is that we invested well on that bull, or we believe well with that bull. So we're going to let him do as much as he can. Now, some young heifers we may.
We still try to do some AI work just to try to bring in some other genetics. That's not the majority of it, but we still try to do a percentage of it just to bring in some of the top end sires on the market.
Are there any AI buns in the oven that you're excited about that you can share with our listeners, or are you keeping those secret till they hit the ground?
I don't think we had very good success this last year.
We have a higher ground mating with Ponytail, and then Ponytail is
Oh yeah.
she's was it a daughter to Chantilly's lace?
Chantilly lace.
Yeah,
That's
105-inch one. And that genetic package is something we're pretty excited about. So it should be a heifer, and we'll see that here pretty soon. So I'm excited about that one for sure.
so another one that could be kind of cool is going back to celebrity. We have a higher ground daughter and we have a Django daughter. So we took the Django daughter, which we love both of them. So we bred the Django daughter to higher ground.
But higher ground click with her mom. So we think they'll click with her, and then you add in Django, and she's black. So you got a little bit of the color, and then kind of a consistent mating, or a mating that you've seen work in the past. So we're hoping that takes it up another notch.
Exciting. Well, let's shift gears here and talk a little bit just about your family and your kids and ranch life in general. So between both of your families, it's very much, a set of family ranches. What does it mean to you both to be raising your kids alongside the cattle?
Well, I'll let Luke talk more about that because I have failed miserably at that. My family they don't dislike them, but they don't have too much interest in it. But I wish they did, but I get when I was their age, I didn't, they're 16 and 18, getting ready to go to college and their licenses and all that kind of stuff. And at this point, so they don't really have any interest. But Luke's kids are.
Yeah, some of them like it more than others, right? We have one of them that really likes it, and some of them that are, not so much, or they like it. They just don't want to get involved in the chores and the everyday work, but they all like to be part of the Longhorn family, and they look for opportunities for that. So it's good sometimes just to get them out of the house, right? It's easy these days to get stuck on screens. So just having an avenue like that to get everybody outside for maybe a branding party, or just maybe it's a nice summer day and hey, let's go hop in the Ranger and take a ride and just, you know what I mean, spend a little bit of time with your family. So that's nice to have available at your back door.
So what do your normal day-to-day tasks look like, or your day-to-day operations look like for the ranch?
Well, one thing nice about that is we kind of rotate shifts. So it kind of gives us both the day off or whatever. So depending on what schedule, and since we both have kids and sometimes I got basketball or you got this or you got that, we take turns doing that. So
It's pretty simple most days. Cold or wet and muddy sucks, as it does for anybody, but we only have our animals in 3 places and they're all right on 40 acres. So it's very simple. All but one, we do have auto waters with heat. So as long as we make sure that's good and we don't have issues with freezing in the water, which typically we don't.
we got some high traffic pads put in, and we, over the last couple of years, we invested a lot in fencing and some buildings and setting it up to try to make it, I guess, easy's the word. You know what I mean? As easy as it can. So
A lot easier than when we were kids, pitching manure with pitchforks and all that kind of stuff.
Well, looking back on all of your experiences, what's something that you thought you understood about Longhorns early on, but maybe you've been humbled by experience, or you wouldn't give that same advice, or, maybe lessons learned you can share with us?
I kind of talked on it earlier. I'm chasing that early horn growth with, we really, oh man, we got a bull early on because he was kicking it out, but then it didn't necessarily wasn't a long-term goal for us. Wasn't how we in the end seen ourselves going a different direction. So it was more of the genetics and understanding on how it works out. So reacting to what's hot, I would say would try to make sure you're staying true to what you really like and not just chase the latest and greatest. I mean, when we were starting, there was some really hot animals out there that really had a lot of horn growth, and they were really high on a lot of sales. And now they've seen that some of those other animals that weren't coming right out of the gate have kind of surpassed them, and now you can see that trend in the sales, where the longer term genetics have kind of came through rather than the short term.
What do you feel like is the best way for folks to try to learn or teach themselves about the genetics if they're not familiar, they're just getting started?
It's you have to get out and you have to go play, and at least I do. If you have my personality and you got to go wherever it is, sales and whatever kind it is, sales and events, shows, on any spectrum. Go to the haltered shows, go to futurity shows, go to sales, go to whatever you can that you can get to relatively easily, and seek people out and talk to them. And then to back all that up is use the hired hand websites, and use, Craig's Arrowhead Cattle Company, with all the links to all the things, and the hired hand search features, and really understand how to navigate through there. And you can go down a rabbit hole on that, and really study certain genetics. That was probably I mean, that's how we've been found on some animals um, that people have purchased, because they liked a certain genetic package, and they're trying to find something like that is in a consistent family, and through the website and tracking it down, they found us. We didn't. We don't know a lot of folks in the industry. It's too big, it's too vast. We're not able to get to all the sales and events. Plenty of people come in and they spend a whole bunch of money right at first because it's so fun, and you get caught up in the moment. And thank God we didn't do that. We'd have been out of it a long time ago if we'd done it. But we bought one. I don't know that we've ever bought more than two at a sale. And we're careful on, all right, if we're going to buy one, we got to sell two. It's just, that's probably one of the main rules that we have is, okay, we want to buy something, we better sell two, or be selling a really good one, um, and look for opportunities.
Well, and we've made it a point now to, when we're going down to Texas, to try to take a couple extra days, and then try to do some ranch tours down there. And so we've met some good people, and made some good relationship. I mean, we made it down to Brazos last year. Just that's how we got hooked up with Brazos Tough Cowboy, and
Mm-hmm.
went to DCT and met up with those guys. And
Yeah, a lot of it was
and
traveling for work or vacations, um, just looking to find who has ranches close by where we are, and we're traveling. We have an extra few hours to go meet folks and talk to them.
Well, you touched on one thing that's a good segue into my next question. How important do you feel like it has been having a professional website, and how much time has it saved you, back and forth on cattle you're trying to sell, or maybe ones folks are interested in?
I think it's invaluable to me. I mean, if when we and I look at it from the other, when we want to buy something and we're researching for a sale, um, it's a lot harder to do if they don't have a hired hand website. Not that you can't, and we certainly make phone calls and other things on animals that we're interested in. Um, but to have that information at your fingertips so you can really quickly look and research yeah, it was hard to justify at first with only 3, 4, 5 animals, but at the end, if you're going to be a part of it, and try to market animals, I don't know how you could do it without, unless if you're there all the time. Maybe if you went to every futurity and every sale, maybe you wouldn't have to if you brought all your heifers and everything, but certainly wouldn't work for us without it.
Is that how many you think you had when you got started? Was when you started the website was only 3 or 4? I don't remember.
We might have had 6 or 8, but it was not very many. There was not very many. Yeah. Maybe it was 10, but not everything was stuff we wanted to show off either and put on there necessarily.
And how many head are you up to now?
25.
25 to 30. We kind of go up and down on that number. Just kind of depends on the year and what kind of calves we have and who's interested.
Is there an ideal herd size that you try to stay at or that you want to get to?
That's it. That's the number. It's what we have pastures for. It's what our facilities are kind of built for without buying a bunch more land. And there's not leased ground really available around here. It's everything's row crops. So I don't think you could ever, some people may be able to. We are unable to, at least with full-time jobs and doing other stuff, being able to justify going out and being able to buy more property to do it.
And our kids do sports and just time, just availability. It just works for us.
We can brand our whole year's worth of calves in about 2 hours. If we need to work the whole herd and deworm them and stuff like that, 2 hours. So if we have games in the afternoon, typically we can get it done in the morning. And so I'd say, yeah, the number that we have is ideal. And unless we retire and win the lottery or something, then maybe we buy 1,000 acres and have the biggest herd in Northeast Indiana. But I would doubt it. That may take the enjoyment out of it for us. It's not so much where it makes it a chore when you're doing chores.
What do you feel like the future looks like for Pine Brothers Longhorns?
I touched on it a little bit before, just really focusing in on those couple pedigrees that we really like. Now we've kind of, hey, this is what we like. We're really focusing on and trying to figure out how we can get the best bulls and get the best calves on the ground possible.
Do you have a favorite event, like futurity, sale, show that you attend that you, even with the kids' sports or your schedules, you're like, we don't ever miss this one. We go every year. Or do you try to pick a new one you haven't been to and go to every year? What's your strategy there?
They've kind of come and gone, but the kids' stuff still trumps it all. There was a while, we went to the Wisconsin one for quite a while, but both of our kids are baseball, or all his sons and my son, they're baseball. And that's typically about the last tournament of the season. And so that's where we're going to be, is where our kids are. Now I only have maybe 2 more years, then maybe I can get back to going to that one.
But the Fort Worth sale's been we've went to the last 4 or 5 years, and we really like that. Just the whole atmosphere and being downtown and all the ranches so close around, and that's been kind of the one we've been trying to hit on a consistent basis.
Yep, I would say so. At this point, that's the one.
But in the past, we were trying to, hey, let's go here, let's go here. Horn Showcase a couple times. We went out. We try to go to the East Coast. Sometimes the Cherry Blossom. We try to mix it up a little bit, and then the Bluegrass sale is pretty close to us too. So we end up getting there too. So as many as we can get to.
When you're at the kids' games, do you ever get to sneak Hired Hand Live on your phone and follow along a little bit, or no? I want to get you in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And vice versa. I don't remember what sale it was, but I was actually at a sale, and I think I had to use somebody else's phone too, because I did miss an event of my kids. So I was watching my daughter dance, my son play baseball on somebody else's phone, and then watching the sale. Yeah. So, or I'm doing it the other way. I'm at a game and I'm watching the sale, and I have my earbud in, and then somebody's trying to talk to me. My wife has to tell him, oh, he's watching a sale. So yes, it absolutely happens.
What haven't I asked you both about that you want to make sure you share with our listeners about your program, or anything else we didn't cover?
Other than to say to be involved in this industry has really been really a nice way to meet people all over the country, or the world even. And and just learn a little bit about, folks from different areas, even outside of the cattle, knowing about it. We may go somewhere and I send it somebody we've met that we know lives in an area. Hey, we're going to be in this area. What do you think about, what do we do at the Ozarks? We have a family vacation down here. Hey, we're going to go to some other area, and just stuff like that.
Right.
Stop by for a visit.
We got a cousin's wedding in Vermont this summer, and I've already talked to Mike Albanese, and we're just going to stop by and visit, just because the relationships and just all the great people, it's more than kind of the Longhorns. It's more of the family type atmosphere and brotherhood and enjoyment. So yeah, I wouldn't change it. I don't think I would go back. If we had a chance again, we'd do the same thing over.
Well, tell us where folks can follow along and see your cattle and learn more about Pine Brothers Longhorns.
Probably the website is the best place. Not that great at updating social media. I know that's a pretty good spot to show things, but we go through spurts. But we do try to update the website periodically and or at events. And of course, we're always available to call or email or message or whatever. We enjoy talking about them just as much as the next person.
Luke and Dave, thank you for sharing your story. And it seems like you have a really great example of what happens when family and opportunity and intention all come together. And I really like that the values that you have that guide your program. So thanks for sharing that with everyone today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.